On the agenda for tonight's live analysis, we're going back to 2019. We're going to be taking a look at Ray Parker Jr. and he's going to be performing Ghostbusters. Hello, Phil here from Wings of Pegasus and welcome to another live analysis. Thank you guys for joining me tonight. And we're going back to my childhood to have a little listen to a movie theme and a movie song called Ghostbusters. You might know the movie, but I was a huge Ghostbusters fan as a kid and still am. So it's going to be great to get into this, break down some of the guitar. As you can see, I've grabbed the guitar, so we are going to be breaking down the rhythm a bit. If you have got your guitars out, then I'll be showing you some of the techniques that Ray Parker Jr. is using here, because he is, by the way, a killer guitar player. Don't let that fly under the radar. I will break it down so you can get a bit of a deeper appreciation of his guitar work just on this song, but a real top player. So let's get everybody up on screen and we'll see how they get on. This is actually from the 35th anniversary of the movie Ghostbusters. So to my maths working that out, it was in 2019, just a couple of years ago. But let's get into this. I'm probably going to jump in about halfway through, so the link's in the description below if you want to watch this the whole way through without me interrupting it. But let's get into it.
Ray Parker Jr.
So I'm just going to jump in here. I love the beginning of the song when they introduce Ray and they're just about to get started. You can hear a little bit of Ray's playing. Unfortunately, I think the guitar's a little bit low in the mix because I'd love to hear some of his lead work a little bit more clearly because there's plenty going on in there. And when he does start, I might take it all the way back to the beginning. We'll try and remember that we're at about 6.5 minutes when we then rejoin the video later on. But if I take it back to the beginning, we can have a little listen to this funky style, the funky technique. And this is a really funky song with the rhythm in terms of technique-wise on the guitar. There's a groove in there as well. It just fits the movie perfectly because It's light-hearted, but there's some great playing going on in there. It's a hook fest as well. There's so many lines that you repeat in your head. When you're thinking of this song, all these little bits just kick off, like the horn section, for example. You've got the riff in there as well, but I'm just going to take it right back to the beginning and listen to Ray's guitar playing just in the intro when he gets started.
Give it up for Ray Parker Jr.
And there we have it. So, as Ray's coming out from behind the stage, he's got this riff going on. We've got this... like that. And then he has the... it sounded like unison bends going on there. But that intro, just that first part, has got so much technique in there because he's keeping this rhythm hand going the whole time. And it's such a funky, groovy feel that he's got in that rhythm that you need to let that right hand go in order to get the same kind of sound. And he's got his thumb over the top and playing this in B, and the chords you're going to need here are a B down to an A, down to an E. But we'll get into the main rhythm and that main riff in a second. But just to highlight the amount of technique just in this little... just having that right hand there, you're only hearing the notes that Ray wants you to hear. And when I'm playing this, that I want you to hear. But you're hitting all of the strings. So that first part... you can see that my hand's going all the way across, but you only let the B string and the high E string ring out. And there is so much technique in order to get that effect of only hearing two strings but hitting all of them, because it means that you've got to have perfect hand position with your left hand so that you're muting all of the other strings. And it allows you to then put in that rhythm. And this, those are full downstrokes going on there, but you're doing exactly the same thing, muting all of the strings that you don't want. And if you don't play guitar, you won't know how difficult this is to do, but even when you do play the guitar, you'll then have to get your head around trying to get separate strings to ring out, because in the beginning, we had the high E string and the B string ringing out. And now we only want the B string, the G, into the D, little riff. So your muting is changing as you're playing. So this will really fly under the radar. But like I said, Ray is one of those top level players, lead player as well. And a lot of people might have just seen the Ghostbusters, the movie, also the video on MTV. That was the number one video on MTV at the time. It was a huge video, and Ray's just in that, kind of singing in a house. There's lots of neon signs going on, all that kind of stuff, because it was in the 80s, but it's a great video. But people might just assume that he was a singer because they don't see him playing the guitar in the video, or at least he's not walking around with the guitar playing. But having all these chops is just so impressive from a technical standpoint. And you'll also see the lead where he goes... he's got these little lines, these little bluesy lines that he throws in there. Like I said, it's low in the mix here, so you can't really hear it, but you can see that he's busted out the telly on this occasion, the Fender Telecaster, not a TV, but just the way that he pieces together his lead is so cool, and his vocals, he's got such a cool delivery. And this is why you might just think that he's a vocalist, because that vocal is so easy to listen to, and he's just so relaxed with it, and he's got such expression in that vocal as well. Anyway, getting into the rhythm, what we've got here is the fifth shapes and the power chords, really, that Ray's going to be playing. And again, he's applying this percussive technique of striking the strings but muting them when he doesn't want them to sound. And just on that point of muting, this sound of on the original record, you can hear that in the mix. So it means that Ray in the studio has sat down and just played muted strings with the rhythm of the guitar in order to keep everything moving forward. So you can have a listen out for that if you want to, but rhythm-wise, you'll see when Ray's playing this on stage, but also in other interviews and performances, you'll see that he's got this. He's got this approach of just playing his power chords, or the fifth. This is going to be that B5 at the bottom, and maybe the octave you can throw in there with the little finger as well, and having this rhythm. This is the killer, getting the rhythm in the riff. So we get this, I'll do it in slow motion, going. So you can hear all of that, those muted strums to keep that moving along. Obviously when he's doing it, he's got this. And he's really loose with that right hand. So I'm exaggerating it a bit there, but you can apply it a little bit more subtly, but it's so precise, the playing, in order to get the groove, the feel, that funky rhythm in there, but keep all of the other strings quiet, because if they weren't quiet, you'd hear, and it would just be a mess. So he's playing it with just enough control to make it sound loose, but it's actually really tight playing with that right hand. And applying that palm mute is going to exaggerate it even more. Like that. So really cool stuff from a rhythm playing perspective, but also from the lead playing, like I said, those little lead parts that you can just hear pop in and out. And this is one of those songs that came together so quickly because I think Ray was given just a couple of days to put it together. And I saw an interview with him where he said that literally the first sounds that he had on the keyboard, he just recorded it with those, and he had an idea for the intro to try and make it spooky, so he came up with that. But I think it's just a perfect song for the movie. And let me just throw in here at this point about the fact that Huey Lewis and the News had a song called I Want a New Drug, and that song is basically Ghostbusters. It is so similar if you do listen to that, and it is so similar to the point that Huey Lewis took, well, the Ghostbusters song, but Ray Parker Jr. to court, and they worked out an agreement and he received a settlement. I'd be really interested to know what that was, considering that this song, when it's released with the movie, made $20 million extra for the movie because of single sales and record sales. So it was a hugely popular theme, but really it was written by Huey Lewis and the News on an album. It's just an album track. This is the thing that when releasing it on an album and then releasing it with a movie, it might be a really similar composition, same chord progression, same sound, same funky kind of rhythm going on. And if you do listen to that song, then you'll be able to tell straight away. Just type it in, I Want a New Drug, and you'll be able to listen to it here on YouTube. But it's because of the exposure that the movie got and this song got that Ray Parker Jr. then had a problem, because everybody now knew this Ghostbusters theme and the Ghostbusters song, but maybe they didn't know about Huey Lewis and the News and their track, so this is why that went to court, and it was found to be so similar that they gave that settlement to Huey Lewis. But like I said, interesting to know whether Huey Lewis would take 50% maybe of everything, or whether he's got the rights to the whole song and consecutive repeats. And I know that there's been new Ghostbuster films as well that have been released with the same song but just remixed and reperformed in a bit more of a modern way. But I just love the old school style of this, and it'll be interesting to know what Huey Lewis gets from that, or at least what the court judgment would then give on that percentage. But anyway, really interesting stuff as a song, given the fact that he just put it together, and he might have had some heavy influences from that previous track that I've mentioned, but it's got so many hooks in there, so many little riffs. Even the main, just that little riff, which actually has it has the response at the end, and that is critical, because if you play the same run over and over and over again, and it might be cool and it might be catchy, but there's never an end of the sentence, and you need to have a part of the riff that is changed that ideally ends on the root note of your chord and it resolves so that you get that full stop at the end of the sentence, and that's how your brain then understands that piece of music is a sentence with a full stop. And it sounded great, so you don't mind listening to that same sentence over and over again because there's a beginning, middle and end. So this is exactly what we have in this riff, but this song really is broken up into different sections and there's not a lot to it really, and that is something that Ray has said about putting this together in a couple of days. He didn't have anything and he couldn't figure out a way to put Ghostbusters into a song, but then he had seen the movie and he remembered the advert that they have in the movie where they say about giving them a call, and in that advert in the movie they say Ghostbusters, and he got the idea to have a crowd vocal, which meant that he then didn't have to sing that line. So it was a workaround and it worked so well because everybody can get into it. You can't help but kind of want to sing along and chant along with it. So having this being put together in such a short time, I think it was just a perfect storm. He was just inspired and he had this groove and this feel, and he wrote it in a particular kind of way that was light-hearted, but there's definite feel in there, and that's what you can really dive into as a musician, but also listening to it, the syncopation that we've got going on. And when we've got this we then get into this and again, so much technique in this part of the guitar, and the fact that again, just so hooky having this little riff in there. But you could see that I was doing there as Ray does here in this performance, but also when you watch him play it live, he's got this so it is to a certain extent throwing caution to the wind in order to get the percussive sound of hitting those strings. And even the run that we get there on the D string, you've got other strings ringing out, but he's good enough to get that riff to pop out when he wants to. So go, and this is another thing, that he's not playing it and getting a really clean sound, because his guitar, when he's playing it live, generally is the only guitar that's going on. And in a slightly more produced performance like this for an anniversary show, there'll be a couple of the guitars possibly in there, so he can relax a little bit with the rhythm playing. But when it's just him, he's got to fill out that sound, because if you're just playing single notes, that's not going to cut it if there's only one guitar. So when we have that, he's really kind of striking those strings to get that sound in there. And like I said, it's just played with feel and groove, and it's just a really cool song, and I love it because it's just one of those songs from my childhood, and I was really into this movie and all of the little characters and things that I had as a kid. And I mentioned this on the live stream last night, I had all of the Ghostbuster toys, you name it, I had it. But let's get back into the performance and check out a little bit more. I think it was about 6.5 minutes that we left it, so let's get back into it. And there we have it. That was probably the longest ending. I started to feel sorry for the horn section there, having to hold on for that ending. But such a great live performance considering the amount of guitar that's in there. And I think maybe because this is shot, obviously crowd shot footage, maybe over the other side of the stage is where we could have heard Ray's guitar a little bit clearer, because sometimes it's either in the left channel or the right channel, and when that's in the front of the stage you have to be on the right side to hear the lead guitar. But you could see also there we had that same and a little bit of that going on, where Ray was then getting into a little bit of solo work. Again, it was really difficult to hear, which was a shame, but he's got all of that technique, even to the point where he'll start throwing in lead with the rhythm so that we get this even going, that kind of thing. So you can hear those kind of like that. So playing that really slowly, you're still muting the like that. You're getting the notes to pop out that you want to pop out and still getting a fuller sound, but with lead thrown in there. So loads and loads of technique. And just to address the slightly incorrect English of the chorus, but not that you'd have it any other way, saying, I ain't afraid of no ghost. Having the double negative in there, saying I ain't afraid of no ghost, which means I'm not afraid of no ghost, which means you must be afraid of a ghost. But you can't sing I'm afraid of a ghost, because it just doesn't flow. So the I ain't afraid of no ghost just sounds a lot cooler. So don't worry about the double negative, even though technically it doesn't make sense. Or maybe he is just saying that he is afraid of a ghost. But anyway, just something to point out. You do find that quite a lot in lyrics of songs where you get the double negative, meaning the opposite of actually what it means in English if you were to just go through it with a fine-tooth comb. But this is one of those performances that is so well put together from a band perspective as well. It would be great to hear this through the desk and hear the guitar, the solo guitar. I think that we do have another guitar in there somewhere, and we've got the horn section, so it would be all kicking off through that mixing desk, but still a great sound considering it's probably been recorded on a phone. And this is one of those songs that is just a feel-good song. And because of the way that it's played in that way with the style and the way that Ray delivers it, but also with the video and the way that in the video you've got different famous faces, celebrities getting involved, and they got involved with that for free. And this is the other thing, it's one of those songs that I'm sure that if those celebrities were asked, do you want to be in the Ghostbusters video for MTV or the music video, they'd say yes, just because it's good fun. And it's not one of those things that they would instantly say, I'll be in it, but how much money are you going to give me? It's not, music isn't about that in the first place, but this kind of song is all about everybody getting together and singing along in the chorus. And it's just such a feel-good song for a feel-good movie. It's that perfect marriage of having a song that is just, I know, made in a couple of days, but Ray was one of those guys that just has that ability, and he has that now, but did back then, to write a song that just feels the mood. And having seen the movie and why he got the idea to have that crowd chorus and having Ghostbusters as that crowd vocal, it meant that having that gang chorus just added so much because everybody wants to get involved. So it's one of those compositions that I know a lot of people will say about Huey Lewis and the News, how similar it is, but you can't deny that even though it's very similar to that song, the whole feel of it, the vibe, and what Ray really adds to it just makes it a perfect combination with the movie. But it's one of those classic movies. I am a big 80s movie fan, so this is one of those that's right up my street from a movie and a song perspective, especially now being a lot older, being able to appreciate the amount of guitar work that goes into it and the amount of technique you need to nail this live, which Ray does every single time. Just to let you know as well that this was number 1 in the USA in 1984. Of course, it stayed there for 3 weeks, and it got to number 2 here in the UK, so it didn't quite make it to that top spot, but it was a monster hit. Everybody knows it, and like I said, now that the Ghostbusters movie and I think movies maybe have been remade, they're still using that same song. It is an absolute classic. Another little bit of trivia is that Lindsey Buckingham was approached initially to do this song, but he said that he didn't want to do it because he didn't want to be known as a movie soundtrack kind of guy, and this was because he'd done the song for Holiday Road, and that was another Harold Ramis movie, or at least song for a movie, National Lampoon's Vacation, that he did previously. So it was something that Lindsey Buckingham passed on and Ray took up, but I can't imagine anyone, it's always the case, you can't imagine anyone other than Ray doing this song and what it would have turned out as if it was another artist trying to write Ghostbusters, because it's such a perfect fit. And with this song, like I said, there's not a lot going on in terms of the progression. We're not getting overly progressive, but what we do have are little breakdowns. For example, that kind of thing, just really simple, breaking down the B down to the A and having what I would call more like vocal ad-libs than having any kind of strict melody in there. Obviously the ad-libs, once you've heard them, they become part of the song. But it just sounds like something that Ray's just thrown together, gone with the feeling of it, and just thrown in these little lines, which are just perfect. And this is what happens when you get a guy writing a song and he's just doing everything, coming up with a guitar and just going with the flow and the feel and the groove. You just get a great overall package and a great overall composition. But great playing here from Ray and great singing as well. Thank you guys for joining me in this live analysis tonight, and I did see that there was a donation, and actually a couple of donations, so thank you guys for that. And I can see that Ken has donated $5, so thank you for that, Ken. And it might be the case, and it is the case unfortunately, that the first donation that came in has disappeared. So what I'm going to do is, that almost sounded like I phrased, what I'm going to do is not Ghostbusters, but I'm going to have a little look in YouTube Studio to find that donation, because it's something that on the live streams I do not only get the donations on screen, but I do like to address all of them as well to make sure that I can see who's donated and thank you guys personally for it. So what I'm going to do is just quickly click on the YouTube Studio. Okay, and it was Janice who donated $20. So thank you so much for that, Janice, right in the beginning of the live stream. What happens on YouTube when you start a live stream, the donations that have been donated previously before the live stream goes live, they disappear, which is a shame, but I have been able to access them there. So thank you, Janice and Ken, for those, and also everyone else for tuning in tonight. If you haven't seen a live analysis in the past, these happen at 12 midnight Greenwich Mean Time here in the UK, so you can type that time into Google and find out the time zone where you are to make sure that you don't miss the next one. I'll be doing it again. It's every Wednesday night here in the UK that I'm going to be doing them, and I have been doing them. So if you can join me next time, that would be great. Thank you guys for joining me. Thank you for requesting this song and video in the first place. As I said, one of my personal favorites from a song perspective, but also from a movie perspective. And it might be the case that you guys couldn't see most of the playing with my hand, but if I quickly get rid of the screen and I'll quickly play through, just for those of you who do have your guitars out, and the rhythm was just using those fifth shapes at the bottom. I think you probably could see that. You could could probably see my hand when I was playing that. And that's pretty much going to be it. You can play the chords, the B, the A down there, down to the E, and apply that same rhythm. But it's a lot of work, and it's something that you won't see Ray doing. He just plays those power chords at the bottom. B, A, down to E. And that'll be B5, A5, E5. So I'm not playing full bar chord shapes there. You can do if you want to. If you want to get in the major sound of those chords. But anyway, just to give you guys a quick demonstration at the end, because maybe you couldn't see my hand earlier, but it takes a lot of practice. Top technique here from Ray, and a really cool composition, and just an amazing 80s movie. And so thank you guys for joining me tonight again. Hopefully I'll see you guys next week, and there'll be another analysis video coming your way on Friday. But thank you for joining me tonight, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Rock!